Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Solopreneurs. I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. As a former elementary school educator turned podcasting solopreneur, I'm here to teach you how to use your podcast to grow your online business. On this show, you'll learn proven strategies to boost your podcast's reach, attract more listeners, and ultimately turn those listeners into clients. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. It's been a while since I've shared a pop episode with you. I've reviewed someone's podcast and have created a podcast optimization plan to make their podcast pop. If you're a current or aspiring podcaster, listen in as a fly on the wall for our conversation. I guarantee that you'll find something of value in this episode that you can apply to your current or future podcast. And if you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Today, I'm chatting with Megan, one of the hosts of the Healing Pod podcast, about how to increase downloads and get more listeners. If those sound like things that you want to, keep listening. So, of course, your podcast is the Healing Pod, navigating anxiety and mental health together. Mm-hmm. And then the primary goal that you identified for our conversation today was that you're looking to get more downloads and reach a wider audience.
Yes.
Awesome. Just making sure we're on the same page. Mm-hmm. And then for context, who are you trying to reach with your show here?
So in general, it seems to be landing that we're reaching out to people that feel like us. So both my partner Jessica and I are mental health professionals, but we're very busy people pleasers. And we often get wrapped up in taking care of everyone else's problems and not really creating that community and that space for ourselves. So we really started the podcast as a way to have time ourselves just to sit and connect every week and every other week, but also to reach out to other people who share that geeky psychology interest and who just want to explore these topics better and to find a space where they can land and actually take time to be about themselves and build a community where they can reach out forward and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I have questions about this. Who has answers? Who can help me with it?
Awesome. So I was able to take a look at your show and I listened to a couple different episodes and just a few first impressions. I always like to kick off the call with some things that you're doing really well. So first of all, you have nailed the subtitle. You've got your keywords of anxiety and mental health in there. So that is awesome, slam dunk. I'd say probably 95% of podcasters don't have that dialed in yet. So the fact that you do is a huge asset and you are ahead of the game. So big pat on the back for getting that dialed in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also your audio sounds really good. It sounds really professional. It's nicely edited. I know that you're doing your own editing. And so, for someone who's not a professional, you're doing a really great job. So
thank you.
Awesome things to kick off the call there with. And then, of course, I did, put on my constructive criticism hat and pick out a couple things that maybe you can modify and do better to reach that goal of getting more downloads and reaching a wider audience. So the first thing is your cover art.
Okay.
So I hate to bring this up because it's so super cute and it clearly has meaning to you and Jess, the two peas in the pod and that kind of thing. But when I'm looking at it with my podcast coach hat on, the first thing is when it's displayed really tiny, I can't read the words.
Okay.
But part of that is because it's small font, it's cursive font, and it's just kind of all squished in there. There's not really a lot of breathing room in the image. It's very crowded. And so that's kind of a problem when we're trying to get people to discover our show. They need to be able to identify our show. And then if we keep in mind that a cover is part of a potential listener's first impression, you have, let's say, 5 seconds for them to say yay or nay. I'm going to keep scrolling past this, or I'm going to stop and check this out. Does your cover art stop and say, hey, this is a show that's meeting the need that you're looking for? Stop, take a closer look, check us out. And I just don't know that your cover art is doing that at the moment.
Okay.
And that pains me to say because it is so cute.
I mean, we can always find another spot to use that picture, another spot for the art. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we're talking about redoing the cover, of course, you want to make things more readable, not using a cursive font, using very clear printed font, make it very large. And for you in particular, because your show, the main part of your title, The Healing Pod, doesn't really necessarily indicate clearly what your show is about, I suggest that you put your subtitle, the Navigating Anxiety and Mental Health Together, put that on the cover to provide additional context. Because if I just see the healing pod, what am I healing from? There's a lot of directions that can go in. Is this physical healing? Is this trauma healing? Of course, there's overlap with these, but there's so many different areas. So I would love to see those keywords on the title itself. Again, making them fairly large so they're readable, but just, again, adding to that first impression of the person who has no idea who you are, no idea what your show about. You came up in their search results, and are they going to click on this or not? We want it to be a absolutely yes, they're going to click on this.
Gotcha. Okay. We can work with that.
So that's kind of the first and the biggest area of need that I see. The other thing that I think that you can do to optimize your organic discoverability, again, people discovering you through, not through effort-based marketing, but just naturally stumbling across your show, is to do the same thing with your episode titles that you have done with your show title. So with your show title, you added Navigating Anxiety and Mental Health Together for that search engine optimization, right? And so doing that with your episode titles as well is going to help the algorithm help the search engine understand that, hey, our content is about this. So when people are searching this, you should pull up our content.
Okay.
So, you very clearly have two main keywords, anxiety and mental health. Technically a phrase, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
And so one of those should be in every single one of your episode titles.
Okay. Does it matter where in the title or anything, or?
It doesn't so much. I mean, honestly, the first step is just getting it in there, period. The search engine likes it when it's closer to the beginning, but we also have to keep in mind that we're writing for humans and we're writing for robots. So even though the robots like it really close to the beginning, that's not always a great thing for the human in charge of saying, is this an episode that's worth my time today? Am I going to press play? So I try not to put too much of a formula on it. So, use that creative expression to make it appealing to humans, putting the word in there somewhere for the robots.
And I think in one of your recent episodes of your podcast, you talked about kind of going back and reworking some of those titles too. Does that make sense?
Yes, you can absolutely do that. I do recommend that you do that. And you're in a great position being only, 14, 15 episodes in. And so you don't have a huge back catalog to go through. So that's an advantage. So even though it's like, oh man, I have to go back and do this, it's not a huge amount.
Okay.
And then the third point of feedback, I like to give people kind of a 3-step plan. My mind goes in a lot of places, but I like to try not to overwhelm people with too many things to do. So I like to come up with 3-step plans. And so for you, cover art, title, search engine optimization. And then the third step in this plan would be to kind of hone in and work on framing your content a little bit.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that your content is good. It's entertaining to listen to the two of you interact with each other. You're clearly very knowledgeable professionals and you have great information to share. I think that we can just frame it a little bit differently to make the value more clear to the listener. So this is kind of like, we wrap a present or something and like what's inside isn't really changing all that much, but the way we package it and present it can have a big impact on how someone's initially perceiving that and whether they're going to be excited about it, whether they're going to, really want to open it, like that kind of thing. I'm going a little down the rabbit hole with the analogy there, but
it works. Yeah, I got it.
And so this comes into play with the title, of course. And so that's, when we're talking about throwing in those keywords, we still want to make sure we're framing it in a way for the human. And so every single time you sit down to discuss a topic, record an episode, I would love for you just to ask yourselves and like dialogue a little bit before you start recording, or at least the part that you're going to cut out at the beginning, and talk about, okay, what is the value for the listener today? What's in it for them?
Okay.
Because of course we live in a fairly self-centered world and everybody's time is valuable. So if I'm tuning into this podcast and I could be tuning into my favorite comedy couple, I could be tuning into, to learning a new skill. Why am I choosing this one? So maybe this topic is on my mind, on my heart today. Okay, I'm interested in this. But why this over one of your other episodes? Why this over a different show? So really conveying that value of why is this worth your time today? What are you going to get out of this?
Okay.
And whenever possible, putting that into the title so that the listener immediately knows, hey, I'm going to get this answer to this question, or this is going to help me with X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to understand A better, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know writing the titles is, I'll sit there and I'll start the editing process and I just start pulling the notes out of what on earth did we talk about today. So doing some of that beforehand and making it more clear as well when we introduce the episode of this is what we're talking about and why.
Yes. So I like to, in the teaching world, I'm a former elementary school teacher. In the teaching world, there's a technique called begin with the end in mind. And so we figure out where we're going to end up, and then we kind of backwards map how we're going to get there. And so for you guys, I think it's really important to kind of determine that ending point of like, where are we going with this episode? Why are we talking about this today? Why is someone going to tune in and want to listen to us talk about this today? What's in it for the listener? So identifying that and then having that conversation doesn't necessarily need to be scripted, but just kind of coming back to that value to the listener periodically throughout the conversation. Maybe it's a, hey, listener, you can try this. Or, so in your episode about social media that I listened to, a lot of it was about your own experience with social media, you and Jess. And that's great. Keep that. But also turn it back to the listener and maybe ask some reflective questions of, have you experienced this feeling? What does this feel like for you? And perhaps give some suggestions. I know you mentioned like blocking people, but like, is there another technique that people could use? Could they set a timer on their phone? Could they, like what is it? Do they choose one social media platform to hang out on instead of all of them? Like just little tiny nuggets interspersed with your own experience that come back to the listener.
That makes sense. Because I know it feels a lot right now like that shouting into the void because there's not that base yet. There's not that interaction.
Yes. Yeah. And I think especially in the beginning, as you're trying to build that base, you're trying to build that community, you're trying to talk to strangers. They have absolutely no idea who you are. They do not know you yet. They do not like you yet. They do not trust you yet. And so you need to like, with the shiny bow, be like, here, I have an answer for you. Very, pretty on my platter. And so I'm bringing you to the door. I'm serving you this delicious dish so that you then come back for more. You're getting to know me. You're getting to know my personality. You're getting to know how, we interact with each other as hosts. And you want to think about, why are people seeking out a podcast on anxiety and mental health? Why are your audience of kind of the average people, non-mental health professionals, why are they seeking out a resource like this? Most likely because they're struggling with something in their own life, right? And they want to not feel alone. They want some of their feelings and experiences to be kind of normalized, right? But also probably they want some help, some action steps, some things to do to help solve this problem.
That makes
sense. Of course, continuing to bring your personalities, your style, your experiences into it, because there's only one you, right? There's one of each of you. You make a pair together, or two peas in a pod. And so lean into that, of course, because that is partially what's going to make you different. And so me, the listener who's like, okay, I want a podcast about anxiety, but I don't need like a whole hour therapy session here. I don't want someone to talk at me. I want someone who's relatable. So of course I have lots of options. There are lots of podcasts that talk about anxiety. And so I'm looking for something. My need needs to be met, but I also need to find the right people to fill that need. And so maybe there are multiple options. Maybe you're the right fit. And so just kind of coming back to, how does this benefit the listener? And kind of just thinking about it from their perspective. Does that all make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
You're doing awesome things so far. And I think with some fine tuning, with keeping that stranger in mind who doesn't know you yet, that is what's going to propel you forward into success.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's definitely going to help. There's more stuff. I mean, this is brand new to me. We just started it in April. So we're playing and we're trying to figure out where to go from here.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out and having this. It definitely helps.
My pleasure. I'm glad you found value. All right, that's all for today. If you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your very own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Until next time, happy podcasting.